I've lived 1,000 lives. I've piloted 1,000 souls. I've killed and fought at night just for another role.
This is the Happy Jacks RPG Podcast, a roundtable discussion that's a mix of friendship, humor, unbridled enthusiasm, and tabletop RPG topics sent in from around the world.
Just for another role.
Hello, and welcome to Season 30, Episode 9 of the Happy Jacks RPG Podcast. My name is Kimmy.
Oh, I'm Clara.
And I'm Jay.
Woohoo. So tonight we are talking about indie games, specifically indie game jams coming to Drive-Thru RPG. We're talking. Heath in Maryland asks about our experiences with new player tropes. Jerry from Oregon, where I'm supposed to say Oregon, according to the email, returns to the Happy Jacks community. Welcome back. And shares a story of Big Bad Con. And Weasel Creature from California shares a tip for someone who is interested in jamming but doesn't know where to start. If you'd like to contribute a question or story to the show, email us at happyjacksrpg@gmail.com. That's happyjacksrpg@gmail.com. Woohoo! Announcements. Our call to action this week, we would really love you to leave a review and or rating, preferably write cool things about us at wherever you listen to podcasts, and maybe a few places you don't usually. If you have a login, that's fine. So now this doesn't actually help like more people see us. It doesn't make us more visible in most podcast apps, but it does mean if people stop by and check out the show that they see recent reviews. A lot of our reviews are fantastic. We have really great star ratings, but if you look, they're all from like 2018 or before. So we would like people who are checking out the show, maybe running into it more recently than that, to know that it is still a good show. So please leave us reviews and ratings. Yeah, all right, thank you.
Sorry, I was thinking about the one guy who was like, this show isn't fun anymore. I'm like, good for you.
Yeah, good for you. Yeah, there's someone who on YouTube, if you weren't in the Discord when I was like, hey, look at this asshole. I tweeted about it too. It's like, this show used to be good and now it's gone super woke. And we're like,
Oh.
Cool.
Oh, no.
Oh, dear.
Where have you been?
Yeah, seriously.
Anyway, so yeah, we
Don't leave that review.
Please.
I mean,
Or do, and then we'll
and then we'll make merchandise with it and have more listeners. It'll be fantastic. I'm kidding. If you really like our show, please don't leave like joke 1-star ratings. If you hate us, whatever. But if you like us, please leave good reviews. All right. So we're going to start tonight talking about a news item, which is something we did a few weeks ago when we were talking about Wizards of the Coast buying D&D Beyond. But this week we're going to be talking about something called a game jam. And for those of you who aren't familiar with what a game jam is, they are basically like, they're not always competitions, but they're basically like collective game creation events.
Activations, you might say. Yeah.
So they're really popular on itch.io, and usually someone will come up with like a weird theme, like write a game about making a sandwich, and you've got like 2 weeks to make a game. They're usually very unpolished. They're very zine-like a lot of times, very quick indie, kind of just like creative,
rough and tumble, but a lot of great ideas kind of just brewing and all that.
Yeah, a lot of times like amazing games have their start there. Sometimes someone gets something perfectly awesome and polished in that small amount of time. I did one, my very first game actually, Virgins and Vixens, was a game jam because it was like a folklore game jam. So I was like, okay, what legend do I want to do? Oh, fuck, all legends are super misogynistic. Hey, I'll write a game about how all legends are misogynistic.
Nice.
So, I wrote that game in literally 2 weeks and put it all together, published it, and then I liked it so much I just left it. So sometimes you do, sometimes there's some amazing games that are done and finished and stay that way forever, and sometimes you get little kernels of perfection that then grow into much bigger games and hits. So this has been happening on itch.io for years and years and years. It's become something that's built the TTRPG community there to make it like a lot larger. And it's something that's really lowered the bar for a lot of people to who probably would have been too intimidated to try making a game otherwise. So I don't know. Do you have any experience with that?
No,
Jay?
no.
Okay.
This is I'm going to do the new one for that drive through DTRPG is hosting is called Pocket Quest 2022, and the theme for Pocket Quest is summer camp,
Yeah.
and so I'm going to
Don't
give it a
you?
shot. I'm thinking about I'm debating between a couple of ideas. The one I'm leaning towards right now is summer camp in the midst of an alien invasion,
Oh, nice.
and so I started writing some material for that last night, actually, and it occurred to me how, with all the ideas in my head, I have no idea how I'm going to meet like the 20-page maximum.
Oh, is it a 20-page
It's
maximum?
20-page max,
Yeah.
6x9 too. It's not. It's a pocket booklet, right?
Yeah.
It's meant to be this little thing, and so kind of. This is going to be an exercise in paring down ideas and figuring out, okay, what do I really want to do this? How do I really want to hit this thing?
Mhm.
But yeah, no, this is my first experience doing it, so I'm very excited.
Yeah.
But fortunately, I've heard of other jams where you've got like a couple of weeks, you've got a month. This one is a nice long 2-month span, so
Yeah.
I feel pretty good about that being my first outing.
Yeah.
I was
I think
gonna say, no, like I've seen 24-hour game jams and
Yeah.
stuff, so like
Mhm.
those are fun, but nightmares.
Yeah.
Also, is there like a font size limit? Like you're doing 6.
I haven't looked at the templates for this one.
Yeah, no, that's one of the nice thing about this is that there are templates that you can use. They also say that if you're proficient enough in layout, you can just do your own layout, and that's fine. So
Just saying.
I mean, I'm sure you can shrink down the font as much as you want, but there's a certain point when you just don't get the yield.
I'm sure. No, I'm saying it's like a
Yeah.
miniature summer camp, like borrower style, and every game comes with a magnifying glass.
Yeah,
there
And then
go,
you can do
there
everything
go.
at point.
It's 1980s like microfilm.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Here's my free
technology that
pitch.
you have to
Yeah.
take advantage of. No, I actually.
I think it speaks to something really magical that itch.io captured, and the fact that it works so well there that drive-through, which is a very kind of traditional outlet for
Mhm.
games, even though you can post anything there, it is still heavily dominated by D&D and
Definitely the
OSR and
bigger
Pathfinder.
publishers, yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, and supplements to that and
Mhm.
licensed supplements to everything, where itch has literally been like the Wild West. Like, I am making a game about cooking eggs while wearing a beret. Okay, like that game is probably on itch.io.
Yeah.
It's a personal journaling game, and like no, I got you.
So
I
many
probably
games.
own it.
Yeah, and it's fascinating and it's amazing. So I don't know. I'm sort of conflicted because I'm like, itch did it first, but also I love the idea of this very free form, like low barrier to entry,
Yeah.
like form being spread out there, so more people like feel brave enough to write a game.
Yeah.
And I think they did. I love that they have templates. Like most itch.io jams are very, very free form. Like 2 weeks. Here's a vague theme. Go for whatever you want.
Yeah, kind of anything goes really within that theme.
Yeah. So I'm wondering if this is while I was reading through Drive-Thru's whole like announcement about it, and it felt very much like they were trying to draw more creators to their platform.
Mm-hmm.
It did not seem the way it was set up like they want to drive an increase in content from people who are already on Drive-Thru. It was like,
Yeah.
come, Jay, you've never written a game. Come write a
Yeah,
game
yeah,
for
there's-
Drive-Thru.
There definitely is. They're definitely encouraging that. Getting people just saying, hey, we know you have ideas.
Mhm.
We know you've said to yourself, I bet I can do this. Come on and do it.
Feeling
Yeah.
really
I
attacked.
love that. I love that.
It's the and like sometimes you just need a deadline.
Yeah.
So like having a nice soft 2 months to be like,
Mhm.
yeah, you can procrastinate. We all know you're gonna do it for the last week of July, but like,
Yes.
listen, you just need a deadline.
Yeah.
Accurate.
Yep. And forming the community around that too. That's
Yeah.
something. It's the same thing that Zine Month in February did, and other, other even non-gaming related what was like month-long challenges do.
Mhm.
Forming that community. If folks are already going to DTRPG and they're familiar with what's there, and they're familiar with the various names that are there, you can interact with them in the Discord and get ideas, kind of bounce things off people. That's part of the fun, is really being part of that community of folks kind of getting together and getting swept up in that excitement, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. I love it's a very chill theme too. Like
Yeah.
Summer
Yeah.
camp.
Yeah.
No, man, I love summer
there's
camp.
so many
Mhm.
wild things you could do with that. I have
Yeah.
so many little weird ideas. I'm not allowed to make anything for this jam until I finish the 3 other games I'm currently
Mhm.
writing. I'm
I'm
saying that out loud. So when I start making a camp game the last week of July, and everyone's like, "What are you doing?" I'll be like,
Uh-huh. Mhm.
Well, if we collaborate, technically it's not your project.
That's-
I'm just gonna throw that out there.
Okay.
It's like my project that you helped on.
Okay,
I'm also
that I
not
can
gonna
do.
make not going to. I was gonna say though, it is, you were like, yeah, I know Itch did it first, but it is I at the risk of sounding like I'm pro corpo, I do like Drive Through RPG has a pretty good solid platform. We already said they host a lot of these major things, and most of us get our games from them and it's mainstream stuff. It is nice to have a bigger platform, give the opportunity to indie developers to be able to push this stuff, because otherwise you gotta know someone who will tell you to buy something on itch.io.
Yeah.
Yes, you do.
Yeah.
Here's
Very
the
true.
exact link to the thing I want you to buy.
Yeah.
I mean, all my stuff is on drive-through too. Most people have their stuff on both or more platforms. I think it's really a great reflection of where the TTRPG hobby is going, though. The fact that a big company like that realizes there is such a market for indie, like niche games like that, that they are starting this, which seems like it's going to be at least an annual thing. And so they're expecting to have it be a recurring thing every year, that they're like, hey, we are specifically putting all this effort into drawing this type of game and this type of creator onto our more traditional platform. I think that's fantastic.
Yeah, I think that's awesome.
Yeah, I'm very excited about that.
I mean, DTRPG already has a large audience.
Yeah.
You know, it already reaches a lot of people. If they start seeing these little products that provide more unique experiences than your, large publishers or your even mid-range publishers can provide, then I think that's great.
Yeah.
I do truly recommend also, maybe I don't. Like, legally, I should not recommend this, but if you're on itch.io and you have like a little wine, just wander around there for a while.
Just wander to.
It's like Kickstarter.
Yeah.
A little wine, a little Kickstarter, and then
Fall
like
in that rabbit hole.
and then like
You will not regret falling into that rabbit hole.
yeah, 3 months later, like presents from past you just get bought.
See, everything I buy on Itch is like immediate download.
Oh,
So
yeah.
there's like that,
Sure.
instead of like the Kickstarter, I'm gonna get this in 3 years.
Yeah.
Like, no hate, like my Kickstarter took 2 years to follow, but it's like immediate download. Oh, I have a game, and then you're like, I have 15 games. What? Oh, I have 15. Oh, I have 15 games.
I got 15 games.
Yeah.
Yep.
But they're great.
And what's
love
awesome is that you can get a lot of bite-sized content too. So you got 15 games, but you can play them over the course of like 15
Absolutely.
nights.
Yeah. Oh god.
Yeah. So anyway, I was really excited about that. Thank you, Jay, for bringing that to my attention and
Absolutely.
being like, hey, we should talk about this, because we absolutely should talk about this.
So yeah, if any of you here have ideas, and we know you do, get out there and do it. It's gonna be awesome.
We should come up with like a little like icon for like everyone in the Happy Jacks community to like put on their games when they submit the stuff, and just be like, Happy Jacks like love, or Happy Jacks community support or something, like a co-op or something.
Happy Jacks approved.
Yeah.
That scares me, but I would love that.
Yeah.
So
I don't know.
That'd be great.
Yeah,
I love
if
that.
you are making a game and you'd be interested in having that on your game, I will come up with something cute and cool. Oh, Jay's raising his hand. Okay, excellent.
Totally, absolutely.
That'd be super fun. Yeah, that would be actually really cool, because we do have like a design section in the Discord for designers who are like batting back and forth ideas and stuff, and that'd be kind of cool to be like pick a game jam every few months and just like in mass like Happy Jack submission.
Yeah, that'd be cool. I'd love
This is
that.
our horde.
love that,
Just
yeah.
take them.
Yeah,
I love that.
that's very fun. All right, very good. Any other stuff we want to talk about?
News-wise? No, not that I
Okay.
can think of.
All right. First email. Who wants to go?
Hold on, I want to see how long it is. Dibs. Okay. It's the shortest one, I think. Hello, Knights of RPG who say, drink.
Drink.
Hold on. You did this. Me and LaCroix. Long-time listener, one-time winner of an easy roller dice tray, and first-time emailer. Woohoo! with the need of some emails, I'm sending this your way. Back in the before time, Christmas 2018, I was able to play D&D with my younger brothers and my nephews. My brother was the GM, with me and my 3 nephews being the players. This was the first time playing D&D for my 2 younger nephews, ages 7 and 9. Over a few days of my Christmas visit, we got a good 10 plus hours of gaming. Me and my older nephew, 20, helped me, the youngling with the game, letting them lead. During the time, many different gaming tropes happened. They split the party during a battle, they ran towards the danger, almost dying, and telling an NPC they just met a deal they just made. My question is, have you guys sat in or hosted a first-time player, young or old, where a gaming trope happened? Heath from Maryland, Heath_bar on Twitter.
Oh man.
I
Yes.
love it.
Yes, and
Yes.
am I going first? You're both looking
Do
at
it.
me.
No,
Yeah.
really, you seem more you're excited. And I just
Okay, so I have a friend who will remain nameless, who it was their very first TTRPG, and now they are a fairly well-known streamer. It's not a Bria. This person has never really been on Happy Jacks. I met them outside of the gaming collective that we know as Happy Jacks, and they got invited. We all got invited to a game, and it was D&D, and I was sort of like, okay, sure, I'll play D&D. But because I was like trying to be like the good friend, and they're all like, hey, we've heard you're a tabletop gamer. I'm like, okay, great. What are we gonna play? Well, D&D.
That's the only game in
That's
town?
the only
the
game.
only game in
I mean, it turned out great, and it was fun. But this person, it was their very first time playing a TTRPG, and they wanted to be the most amazing, most attractive. Everybody had the hots for them. Like they took like they were very good at reading the rules and understanding how everything worked, and they like basically made it so like if they winked at you, you would become very aroused and attracted, and like it was just like all the weird kind of mechanics in D&D that's like okay, like we're okay because we talked about it first, but otherwise no. And they were so annoyed because I made a Warforged that was like had no emotions. And they were just so annoyed all the time. Well, don't you feel anything? No.
I'm a
No.
robot.
You seem like you would be a very attractive hunk of flesh to other hunks of flesh. Like and they just like kept trying, and it was just like one of the things, and finally the DM was like, okay, it's not gonna work. Like
Listen, bud.
Kimmy's character just isn't like that. Like,
and that's okay.
And which is fine,
It's
yeah.
gonna be fine.
But they like there was a lot of like them working through things, I think, which a lot of us do our first couple times role playing, and so it was just a very big tropey thing where they were just like the most attractive, and they had magic where they could make themselves look like whatever the person wanted all the time and all that stuff, which we've all been there.
Yeah,
We've all been
for sure.
Yeah. So that was just my story, and I don't judge the person for it at all. Like, oh my gosh, my first characters were like, I am amazing, perfect, paladin, pretty girl. And it's like, oh, okay.
How many vowels were in your first character's name? And did she have parents?
She did not have parents. Nope.
Oh, trope.
And I think 5
Trope.
5 or 6 vowels.
Yeah.
I mean, it was an
No, I
elvish
get it.
name.
Yeah,
so-
Yeah, no, I get it. Like, listen, I only know these because I've lived them.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
We've all been there, right?
It's kind of a gift. I want to, if you're running so my story, when I was in college, I took a class about like crossing parallel worlds. It was a literature class.
Oh.
But as a ongoing side project, everyone in the class had to immerse themselves in another world, and it had to be something new to you. And the list was you could play D&D, you could play World of Warcraft, you could LARP, you could work at a Renaissance fair. And I looked at the list and was like, I don't know how to tell you this, dude.
Where was this class? Oh,
I went to
where
San
did I get
Francisco
this
State.
class? Good Lord.
It was very fun.
I don't doubt it.
It's
I'm
truly,
sure.
truly a wonder. I loved it. But yeah, I looked at this list and I was like, I don't know what to tell you, man. I've done all the things and I really don't want to do more reading. And the professor was like, well, what can we do? Like, how do we work with this? So I agreed to run D&D for players who never touched who had no idea what a TTRPG was,
Mhm.
and basically the same thing. Every trope that could have happened in this game,
Mhm.
and I got to like write about it because I hadn't run a game for people who the first session sat down and were like, so what do we download? Is this was this before D&D Beyond? It was before I knew about it.
Okay.
So they were like, what they thought it was a video game.
Mhm.
And so I had to sit down and be like, all right, well, we use our imaginations. But it's such a blessing, kind of, because you know what to do when characters split the party. You know what to do when they run towards danger. And I'm a big believer in if it's behind the screen, they don't know it, you can fudge rolls so no one dies if you
Mhm.
desperately need to. And like, it was really sweet. They didn't know to check for traps when they went anywhere. And so my first encounter, I almost killed them because I was so used to it that
Yeah.
it's really nice. It's like watching kids do anything. Like, you're like,
Yeah.
cool. You get to learn how, it's really cool to be able to like look at people who are going through something for the first time and be like, oh.
Kind of see the game freshly. that
Yeah.
way, right? Yeah.
It's like
yeah.
toddlers where literally anything will kill them and they want to touch all the things that will kill them.
Yeah.
Yep.
I'm not
They
traumatized
want to
by
walk
that
towards
lately.
the sharp corners. They want to,
Look,
Listen.
toddle
stairs.
towards the steps. Yeah. Yep.
Listen,
Mhm.
this is dirt and it goes right in
see
my
what
mouth.
the pool looks like up close. Yeah.
So much dirt. She eats dirt all the time.
It's good for them, I
Yeah,
think.
it's fine. Okay, anyway.
But you know, that's sort of the like I have been this like the tropey person, and I have been the person who like with my fledgling gamers like, oh no, don't touch that, that's a gelatinous cube, don't. Okay, that's like the first time I met a mimic was just traumatic for everyone, and I was like, I did not think this would do this to you guys. Okay, it's just a door.
Not every chest or door is gonna be like that. I just
Yeah.
want you to know right now. You
Yeah.
can look for loot.
I genuinely, the same way I feel about toddlers, I think I ruined them for life a little bit. Because they're like, so after they encountered their first mimic, which was a door, and they just, they're every time they ran into a door afterwards, they're like, is it a mimic? No, it's just a door, please. I'm so sorry.
I will never give you a mimic again,
Never.
ever.
Yeah, never.
Oh, I genuinely
One and
had to
done.
say that. I was like, it's never going to be a mimic, I promise. But yeah, no, it's, I love, honestly, the other thing is tropes are such a good thing sometimes because it's a shorthand.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I do want to like clarify, like, we have all been tropes.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, we are not, knocking on these new players for being tropes. They are tropes for a reason.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
it's so easy to kind of default to those things when it's your first time there. And in many ways, it's very good because it's easier to then be that character while you're trying to learn all the rules and the mechanics,
yeah.
which is, I think, why it's so common a lot of the time.
Yeah. Well, and they say you kind of have to know the rules before you can break them.
Yeah.
So sometimes you do have to play those tropes before you realize that, you know what, a lot of people are doing this. I kind of want to do something else.
Yeah.
There's room for that.
Mhm.
The tropes that come to mind. I had a new player who was the pickpocket trope.
Yeah.
Hell
Like,
yeah.
just
Yeah.
The rogue that just went after everybody's pockets, including the players. Fortunately, I was playing with, experienced players at the time when they stepped into the table.
Mhm.
But and I tried. Okay, I tried everything. I was like, okay, the constabulary is going to catch you if they're going to throw you in jail.
Mhm.
Didn't work. And they kept on succeeding their roles.
Oh,
That's the
I tried the
worst.
mechanical thing. This is an Adventures League game. This is a D&D Adventures League game. You technically can't really steal treasure. Anything that you get, it just kind of gets tossed in at the rewards at the end, or you have to give it back. Didn't stop it from doing it anyway. Kept on pickpocketing.
oh man.
You pickpocket this old lady, and she just is the most charming person, NPC, and nope, just wander loot. I'm gonna leave her
Aw.
behind, tried to hang that carrot in front of her, but it's sorry, it ended up working out. It's what I mentioned about them figuring out that trope only goes so far.
It gets boring after a while.
It does, yeah. You realize that, wait a minute, there are better, more interesting ways to interact with the world than this particular, trope that I'm playing into. And eventually the player did come around and decide that, yeah, I want to try a little something different.
I think that's the best way to handle it, like letting them kind of work through it.
Yeah.
If they start really like making other people uncomfortable or whatever with what they're doing, then you definitely want to kind of like step in as the DM or GM. But like having them have that first character that is theirs, and then they kind of grow and learn from it. They see what other people are doing at the table. it's one of those like natural learning moments that works best if you're not telling them what to do all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Um, and I think it is just a more fun entry as long as everybody kind of figures each other out, right?
And then, like, I everything becomes a trope eventually. Like, we joke about it even on Happy Jacks, but like I played like 3 blue aliens. Just happens. We start like, so everything starts to become a trope. Like, the one I harp on the most is the like Arya Stark style, like, I hate being traditionally feminine character who, like, rock on to however you want to present your gender. But I see it, I grew up with so much of it that I'm like, but what if you just really like wearing a dress?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, like, everything becomes a trope eventually, because even that kind of came up out of this idea of, like, maidens and
Yeah.
all of that nonsense. So it, after a while, you just can't be worried about it. And again, it gives you a way to work within a system of rules, even for how characters would behave, which is nice. It's just easy.
I think it's interesting. All 3 of our examples were from D&D games.
That is true.
Right?
I wonder, and maybe someone can write in and tell me, because my first real game was D&D. Most of us, that's how we get into the hobby. I think because, like we were talking about earlier, more games are more readily available. I wonder if people coming into the hobby through other games are less tropey or have different tropes, maybe at least.
Well, there are
Different. Yeah.
yeah, probably there are games that are specifically built around tropes. If you think about
Yes.
Kids on Bikes,
Every,
Tales from the Loop.
I was gonna say every PBTA,
PBTA, yeah,
like, has this
exactly.
archetype system.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
yeah, because I was just thinking, like, well, lighthearted kind of leans into it, but I think it
Mhm.
didn't, because it specifically, like, forces you into, like, deep part of the reason that tropes happen is because you're not doing deep internal work. Wow, I sound very pretentious. I think that you become less tropey the longer you start interrogating, like, why you do things.
Right.
So if you have a character who is a jock, and you find out later, like, oh, they're working out their aggression because of this other thing that they're working on, that's also a trope, but it becomes less of a trope because of something else, and it feels less tropey. And I think indie games and, like, games, other systems lean into that, or, like, help facilitate that, whereas D&D is very combat oriented.
Yeah. The trope is a doorway to something a little more genuine within the players, right?
Yes.
Yeah, a lot of times. Virgins and Vixens actually is that exact thing. Like, that's the point of the whole game. You start out as one of the, like, the prize, which is like the princess in the tower, or the witch, or the seductress. So you start out with these very tropey roles of women in stories, and you have descriptor words that describe you, like charming, pretty, things like that. And as you go through, if you roll with those words, it's basically just a word-based system. You don't have skills or anything. You have words that describe you.
Tags, basically.
Yeah, and as you go through, if you roll with those words, you have a better chance of succeeding. If you roll with something that's not one of your words, then you can have, like, growth. And then slowly through the game, you change the words based on how you've grown. So by the end of the game, you can no longer be the pretty prize in the tower. You're, whatever you wanted your character to be. And you can write in your own words and stuff. But it was literally, I think a lot of indie RPGs have that as a theme of, this is the trope, now break it.
Yeah.
So, which
Subvert that trope. Yeah. Absolutely.
And D&D, for all that it is a role-playing game, it's a war game cross-playing as a role-playing game. So while you can absolutely have amazing, great role-playing in it, it is... 5th edition is a little bit better about this, but is not baked into the mechanics in the same way it is in a lot of other indie games.
And indie games have the benefit of coming out in the last 20 years, a lot of them.
Yes.
There are a lot of D&D era games that are tropey as fuck.
Mm-hmm.
This is
The
true.
only one I came up with was a bad one. I'm not gonna bring it up.
Okay.
So it's the bad one.
But I mean, anyway, like, yeah, tropes are not a bad thing, and I think we need to kind of accept that.
Mhm.
And I think a lot of times people are very judgy of, oh, that's you're just playing a trope. You can make a trope really interesting.
Yeah.
And especially if you're new to the hobby, that trope is still really cool and exciting because it's the first thing you've done.
Yeah.
That's the
Yeah.
other thing is that like when you're a new player, like any new experience, like you got to do that. Like if you take someone to Disneyland for the first time, like you're not gonna scoff at them because they get really excited to go to like Star Wars Land or whatever
Right.
because you got to go to Star Wars Land. You already did that, but
Yeah.
like they get to do it now, and
Yeah.
so it's nice. It's fun to take someone through their first like trope.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
That's a good question. Thank you, Heath from Maryland. And number 2, oh, it's a long one.
I'll take them.
I think
Here, I can do it if you want.
No, it's okay.
Okay.
Let me give it a shot.
I'm just bad at
Oh,
reading
wow.
things out loud.
Well, let's
really
see.
long.
That's okay. That's all right. Let's see how I can spin this. Hi there, HJ crew. I'm a returning listener from many years ago.
Welcome.
Yeah, thank you. I was introduced to your podcast shortly after it started by my friend Thomas.
Tomes.
Tomes. Yeah.
love
Okay, weird.
Tomes.
That was a name.
It's okay.
I listened to you for several years in one of the original Please Stop Talking to My Experience Points t-shirts.
Yay!
Gray with the text on the front and the HJ logo on the back gets worn rarely. Around 2017, life got very hard for my family. It was an all-consuming, traumatic time for all of us. The stress of life took me away from my favorite hobby because leaving the house was no bueno, as I would just get called back home to help. I didn't have time or the mental energy to prep games, and I was the GM, so things just fell apart.
That's so hard.
Yeah.
Especially when gaming tends to be kind of your respite from things.
Yeah,
Not be able to get to it.
When that's like a big source of joy in your life.
Shameless plug though, the Please Stop Talking to My Experience Points are now back on the Happy Jacks.
I missed
site.
this meme. Like I am post that meme being
I think you're post. Yeah, you
Aw,
joined like our fair family and then Happy Jacks like after that. Stu made t-shirts like for a con 10 years ago, many years ago, and our joke was because at the time like we were one of the 5 podcasts that existed. There were more than that, but it didn't seem like it. And like people were like, please stop talking to my experience points. That's my grognard voice. It's very bad. But like, so it was something that was enough of a trope, speaking of which, that we like made a shirt with it. And
I love it.
Yeah.
No, I get it, but I was just
Yeah.
like, I was like, it's so again, it's like when everyone says "to be fair" whenever I say it because I don't watch that show.
We also just put up a "Please Stop Flirting with My Experience Point" shirt.
Saw that.
Yeah,
Kind
so
of
that
wanted
was
it.
inspired by your all's game. So
I kind of want it.
get it.
Go for it.
Yeah.
I know. I own so many t-shirts.
All right. Anyway, so that was a shameless
enough
plug, but
t-shirts.
That's accurate.
yes.
I managed to get to Go Play Northwest and Big Bad Con in a couple non-consecutive years. Those were the only times I got to play because I had traveled by plane and could just drive home. I wanted to write in and tell you about my absolute favorite gaming moment in forever because you said you need emails, so here you are. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. If you want to chop this down or just cover the interesting part of my ramblings, do what you need. I'll try to keep it concise.
Yeah,
Reader-
you failed. I think we're gonna like pass this one back and forth between the 3 of us too, because it's like
Heck
2 more
yeah.
pages.
Okay, all right.
Oh no, it's just the PPSs. It's
Yeah,
just
it's okay.
it is
Oh,
2 more
okay,
pages,
okay,
but
okay.
All
yes.
right. Let's see. If anybody wants to jump in, feel free.
Oh, you go first.
In 2017, I think, I managed to score a seat in Brianna Hitchcock's Game of the Watch at BBC.
Ooh.
You probably know this, but for people who have not read about it, the game is meant to be played over a finite number of sessions to complete a campaign against a threat that they design as part of world building. The tone is all about the journey through a massive conflict where the characters play key pivotal roles, what they accomplish and what they lose doing so. Tomes was in the game with me, so maybe if I remember some things wrong, he can keep me honest. The other players may also listen, and if you do, thank you for that game. You are all excellent people to have at the table.
We're gonna tag out here. If memory serves, Brianna had posted an 8-hour game break into 2 4-hour chunks. In the game, the players are any gender identity except male. Hosts can feel free to explain, or people can read up on this game if they want the details as of why. Virgins and Vixens is like that too. You're meant to play women or at least non-men. Brianna was going to run the entire campaign from start to finish in those 8 hours. Shortcuts were taken, and Brianna did an absolutely phenomenal job of tying everything together while keeping it moving, and great fun was had. Hats off to Brianna. I've been mostly GMing and some playing since I was 13. I am now almost 50, and I don't know that I could have pulled that off even in my heyday. I played a gender fluid character named Paeli. Pael.
Pael.
Pael. They, them. One of the other characters and Pael quickly developed a rivalry. I think it was suggested by the other player, and we were both all in. Throughout the game, we were all attempting to one-up each other or get each other in trouble. Because of my payback, I often was obligated to take the high road, and it was a lot of fun. At one point towards the end, I was playing leader for a mission. Players chose roles for each mission based on their rank and playbook, so sometimes it could change from mission to mission. The way I remember it, one of the other characters, a scout, I think, made an error in their advice. I think based on a bad roll, and Pael used that advice. The battle went poorly for us. We slunk back to camp, and I think one of the PCs had gotten captured. All right, tag back.
Once back at camp, all the PCs and NPCs of a certain rank were in the tent with the general. I cannot remember if that was their title, but they were essentially top dog. We were discussing our strategy when Pael's rival mentioned that Pael had made a decision based on bad information from the other PC and had not meant discipline to the other PC. Pael immediately owned the error that they had acted on that bad information. The general retrieved a whip. Brianna was masterful at the table, but I cannot remember the exact words, but the gist was that Pael would have to lash the other PC. Pael took the whip, and I think I remember they looked directly into their rival's eyes, turned and handed the whip to the general. Pael said, as best I can remember, "The decision was mine. I will take the lashes because the responsibility was mine." The player of Pael's rival had a shocked look on their face, and I think that Pael stared directly at them as Pael took the lashes. We went on to complete the entire campaign, and in the end, we triumphed at great loss. And there were many very good spotlight moments for all the characters. It was just a wonderful island of immersion in a very dark time in my life. I will remember that game for a very long time. I owe so much to the other players and Brianna for that game. It showed me that I could still lose myself in a game like I had not been able to do for several years. Do you want to carry it?
Yeah. Take it home.
So, here I am, back almost 5 years later. My family's life is much better, and I'm dipping my toe back into the waters.
Woohoo.
My group and I are talking about starting up again in some sort of remote way. We had to move away for a few years for my partner to finish her bachelor's. I re-subbed to the HJ podcast a couple of weeks ago, and while I miss Stu, Stork, and all the other old-timers, I'm also super happy that Kimmy has taken the reins. Because I can think of no one better suited.
Aw.
I'm planning to attend BBC again this year to come hell or high water. Yay, physical con, and I am vaxxed and boosted.
Woohoo.
Thank you. If any of you are attending and would like to meet up for coffee or whatever, I would love to meet you. Hopefully, I get to see some of the other players from that game there. I'd love to sit at a table with them again. Cheers, Jerry from Oregon. P.S. Thanks for the heads up on Die, the role-playing game. I've backed it as it looks very good, and I like the direction it's going.
Woo.
Yeah, it looks like a great game.
Yeah.
The art is beautiful. P.P.S. Also, thank you, Kimmy, for Decima.
Oh.
I have not had a chance to actually play, but I have been through it several times, and I cannot wait to put it into action. P.P.S. Does this hit the 2-page mark you asked for?
Yes,
it does.
Oh, so many.
Gold star.
Thank you very much, Jerry from Oregon.
Yeah.
That's so sweet.
I would love to go to Big Bad Con. It's like
Where?
yeah, it's a great con. I've never been, but like Gina's like one of the organizers of it. It's like the go-to indie
Looking
like
it up.
con that like everybody loves and everyone goes, and it becomes like their heart con after that forever. And just like everybody I know feels that way about it, and it's just one of those things that I've never actually gotten to go to. I would love to go to this one. I probably can't just right now because my toddler's still unvaccinated because
Yeah.
the FDA, and I'm not even going to start that rant right now.
You have
But-
till October. They have till October to make that happen.
That's true.
Mm.
That's true. So we'll see. But I would adore going to Big Bad Con. It was my goal long before pandemic, and it just every year it's just hard to get there.
I thought I would hate going to game cons in general because I don't like strangers. But every time I've gone to game cons, it's always been a fucking blast.
Yeah,
And so now I'm
yeah.
kind of like, what if I go? to
Yeah,
Big Bad?
it's just wonderful to be around kindred spirits.
Yeah.
And again, getting swept up in that excitement too.
Mhm.
Yeah,
And-
I miss cons.
Yeah, you get to play games that you would not have gotten to play
Mhm,
otherwise. So
mhm.
I've played some really excellent games with people at cons that have just been they've just been wonderful, and I probably wouldn't have picked up myself.
Mhm.
Yeah,
So that's been really it's a good opportunity, and I'm glad that you were able to.
yeah. I mean, so many different experiences all in one setting, right? So many different play styles and
Mhm.
such that you just come across. Yeah, it's wonderful.
Yeah, and Tomes is like the indie game whisperer. He just like goes out into the world and brings them back, and will be like, "Hey, I have this game like 2 a.m. at a convention," and he'll pull it out, and it's just like amazing. He runs for our local strategic cons. He runs the Games on Demand section. He's
Oh,
been on our
sure,
show a
sure,
bunch
yeah.
of times. He used to run Small Game Hunter, which is a show that we had on here for like a hot minute,
Huh.
where we played like an indie game and then like talked about it. And he's just fantastic. If you ever get to play with Tomes, he's sort of like a shadow out in the team. Like everybody knows him, but nobody's like, "How do you know Tomes?
I've heard
How do you know
legend."
Tomes?" Yeah. So he always has the best games. I think he's the first person who talked to me about For the Queen. Like, oh
my
man, he
God.
brought that, and
Changed our lives.
yeah,
I want to say I've played some very great con games with strangers, and then some very cursed con games with
Yes.
Taffy Jacks players.
guilty. Yes.
If we do all get to go to Big Bad Con, there will be a cursed game. I just
Mhm.
know it.
Yes, there's always one.
There's always
It
one.
usually happens like after all the official games are done. We're all like,
It's the 2
1 in the
a.m.
morning, no problem. I still have tons of energy. And then like half an hour, they're like, why did we start this game?
That
We-
hotel room's looking really inviting right about
Yeah.
Yeah, we had 12 people at this table. We're gonna make it work.
Yeah.
now. Yeah.
It's a good
No one wa-
nightmare.
No one's gonna be the first person to give up.
Right. Yeah.
All
I
right.
gotta show those werewolf folks down the hallway.
Exactly.
They're playing till 4 in the morning.
Oh,
Oh man.
I'm too old for that now.
I know, right? I mean, I'm a spring chicken.
Yeah.
I just refuse to admit it. I like sleeping, and I still refuse to admit it.
Yeah. Sleep sounds so nice right now. All right. Email number 3. Sláinte, Kimmy, and whatever random assortment of jackers are with you.
Hello.
Yay. As I am catching up in reverse, Stu and Stork answered an email from someone newish to the hobby and interested in running games. Stork suggested finding a small group of friends and having a one-shot party. Stu suggested finding a system you like and using that. While both of these are great pieces of advice, on my personal list, they are number 3 and 2, respectively. Number 1 is finding a setting that you love. The more you love a setting, the more you'll read about it. And the more you read about it, the more you'll know about it. And the more you know about it, the easier it is to roll with the curveballs your PCs will throw at you. Because we all know they will. Just ask Mrs. Osterman. That's it for today. Keep rocking it. Weasel Creature representing in the LBC. For those of you not from Southern California, that's Long Beach, California. California. All right. I think that is very good advice.
Oh hell yeah.
Yeah. I gotta think about that because like there are some games that have there are some settings or IPs that have their own games, and those games can be pretty
You can say brutal. It's fine.
maybe complicated for
Intimidating.
new players.
Terrifying.
Intimidating for new players. Yeah.
I think that is
Um,
very good advice for very specific people. I think you and I are thinking about the same thing. So you continue for a minute.
No. Well, I was gonna say like for example, the new Dragon Prince game
Oh.
is based off what Cortex.
Yeah, it's
Cortex
Cortex
is actually it's a little crunchier than I would anticipate. I was really surprised when they announced that Dragon Prince was going to run out of Cortex.
I was too.
it seems like the cartoon itself is so just narratively driven, and so I mean, not that Cortex can't be narratively driven, but I expected something maybe a little more rules light for that, especially considering the audience that role playing game would probably pull in, you know, a lot of young folks,
Yeah.
for good reason.
Yeah.
But that's an example, and I mean you're right. It's a certain. I mean, that hits certain things. You know what I mean? It's for certain people. And
Yeah. I think this is a really great, like for me, if I had not already been a GM, this would be a great thing for me because you could be like, hey, the One Ring. It's like, oh, hey, that's a world I know everything about.
Yeah.
If I was going to run a game, all I'd have to do is learn the mechanics because I know the world and the setting super well. I think sometimes with things like the specific like proprietary settings and for Dungeons and Dragons, if you've already read all the Forgotten Realms novels, that's a great place for you to start. If you haven't, it's really intimidating to learn a whole system and the whole world at the same time. So that's when it's, you know, like you were saying, like if someone knows everything about the Dragon Prince, then all they have to do is walk in and be like, oh, hey, I know everything about Zadie already, so all I need to do is learn Cortex Prime.
Right.
Which, good luck. It's actually not that bad. It's just the book. It's sort of a pick your own adventure of systems where you pull out whatever mechanics you want to mix and match. So if you've played Cortex Prime before, it makes a lot more sense. If you've never, it can be a little hard to navigate. I haven't looked through the Tales of Zadia book yet. I have a feeling it's much more laid out in it for people who've never played before.
Yeah.
Where the generic Cortex Prime book is much more like mix and match buffet of things you can pick from. Although it does cite what games they're from, which is really cool if you look through the book.
Oh, really?
So the different mechanics, it's like, this is from, you know, Marvel Heroic Role Playing. And so that's pretty cool. So I was thinking of another good example of this is the Avatar: The Last Airbender game that Magpie is releasing. I'm on the Magpie Discord, and one of the I saw the transformation that happened when they launched that Kickstarter, and then it's like millions of dollars later, and then like thousands of people onto the Discord later. And one thing that we all really kind of noticed, all of us who had like been there for a while and were longtime gamers, a lot of people were showing up who had never played a role-playing game. So they show up and they were asking, you know, questions about PBTA. We started answering the questions because that's what you do in a Discord, is you answer questions people have. And we started answering them like we were answering like D&D players asking about PBTA.
Sure.
And we very quickly realized most of them had no frame of reference for that either. They hadn't played D&D. So when you have these big IPs, especially Avatar: The Last Airbender, because it is a massive IP for a specific age range of people, which I am in. And so it's bringing all these people in, learning the mechanics of the Powered by the Apocalypse-ish system that they've created is the biggest challenge for them because they know everything about the world of Avatar. So I don't know. It's an interesting thing to kind of reflect on how that's going to change the hobby moving forward.
Yeah.
The advice sounds a lot like advice that I've seen about introducing someone to your favorite to video games who's never played a video game, where like you want to introduce them to the thing that introduced you to video games. With like if you grew up with them, Legend of Zelda. But if you've got someone who's brand new to the hobby, has never played before, that's not going to be as compelling to them often, because if they weren't drawn in by pixel art, if they weren't drawn in by the pixel art or the game mechanics, it's going to be very hard to get them to stay for anything else. So like finding IP, finding a world, a setting you love, appeals to you enough that you'll stick with the book is a really good option. In the same way, like if you're going to introduce someone to a video game and they've never played one before, introducing them to something that feels like a movie they already like, very helpful. I also sort of struggle with this as a find a setting you love for the same reasons that I'm going to bring it up. I adore the setting for 7th Sea. I hate the mechanics.
There you go.
I was ranting about it before we went on. I poured over the new edition front to back. I have no idea how to play that game. I can't. And so there are, so I think another really great way to get into running a game that you've never, if you've played in it before also, because this is someone who's new to the hobby, but and interested in running games, if you can find an actual play, it helps a lot to see how things work in motion.
Yeah.
Because then you can see where other people kind of fall into pitfalls, rather than just sort of guess at how people even house rule things. Because I think all of us have had this experience where you're behind the game master screen or whatever, and something comes up and you're like, how do I handle this problem?
Excuse me, I need a bathroom break. 1 minute, I'll be right back.
Yeah.
RP amongst yourselves.
Yeah.
Like, it's good to know how people house rule things. Like, do warlock spell slots count for wizard things or whatever? Oh no, paladin things. That was the
Yeah.
and the answer is they do. Or paladin spell slots work for. Never mind. Anyway, me gaming any system I can. But yeah, like if you're someone who gets systems really easily, excellent. Every person I've talked to, the first time I sit them down and I'm like, hey, you're in this magical PBTA world, which is my favorite way to introduce people to games. You can do whatever you want, and then they look at you like, cool.
Yeah.
Could you please give us a bounty board or something? I don't know
Right,
what to
right,
do.
right.
But riffing off it, my actual advice for like if you want to start running your own games, find a system that mimics a TV show you like, and write an episode of that TV show, and that kind of will move you into that. Which is why I recommend PBTAs.
Yes. So, I wonder. It's happened before because like D&D's always been like the major player. So a lot of times, the even big IPs had trouble like breaking through in the TTRPG space. So like there's a Firefly, there's an official Doctor Who, there's all these, well, to us, like pretty big IPs. Star Wars may be the only one that like when Fantasy Flight Games, like it kind of was in that same league. Not because of Fantasy Flight and the Genesis system, but simply because it's Star Wars.
Yeah.
It had enough oomph there.
Yeah, all the name recognition, the fans, people buying in already.
Yeah. But
And yeah, that's the phenomenon of you knew the world, so you just wanted to play it.
Yeah.
And you'll learn whatever to do it.
yeah, but I'm interested now, like Avatar and even Tales of Zadia, seem now they're picking other systems other than D&D.
Yeah. Yeah.
And they're not getting proprietary systems either, because I can't remember. I think the Doctor Who system is its own system, but I might be misremembering that. But I'm interested to see if this is a phenomenon that continues.
Yeah.
If other game companies start being more in competition with like trying to go after specific IPs for things that just to like put their systems more on the map.
Sure. I mean, let's see. The new G.I. Joe role-playing game is a completely new developed system. I mean,
That's right.
it's similar to Age, but it's got its own takes on it. There was another game that recently...
The new Marvel game.
The new Marvel game, yeah.
Well, that one's
Oh,
really
no, that's the one that's similar to Age. I'm sorry. The G.I. Joe
okay.
one is a completely different system.
Yeah. Well, the interesting thing about the Marvel one is it's Marvel, like, getting a company to make a game of their IP.
Yeah, yeah.
So it's like, I mean, it's a partnership, but so it's not like they just licensed it to a company. So that I feel like that's another direction that people are going to start going into, where companies are kind of creating them. And this has all happened before. It's just there are more, the pie is bigger in the tabletop RPG hobby now.
Yeah.
So it feels like there's more room for companies like this to make a bigger dent, other than just like the hardcore Doctor Who or Firefly fans.
I'm struggling because
the chat room's correcting me. Doctor Who was the Vortex system.
Oh, gotcha.
I forgot about that. Sorry.
not played that system.
Yeah, we've got what Alien and Blade Runner are running off Year Zero, the Year Zero engine from Free League Games.
Free League Games.
Yeah. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Well, it's more that I'm struggling, and you brought up Avatar: The Last Airbender, the game, and I haven't gone through it yet, so I'm kind of speaking out of my ass, but like I know I'm worried about the idea like, oh, we've got to make a whole new system for a game because one, at some point we will have invented every way you can play a game until we figure out a new sense or something. So at some point it's like, yeah, our system is PBTA, but we also have added this weird G mechanic or this like Taoist situation, and I'm like, I don't know if that was as relevant as it needed to be or that you understood what was going on there. But so I'm also a little traumatized by the Witcher game, so there's that, which is also needlessly complicated.
So
Yeah.
complicated.
So
yeah. I did try the Avatar. I love
Is
Avatar:
it
The Last
good?
Airbender. No, I love the show.
Okay.
I am obsessed. I've read all the books. Like I love the Avatar world. I love PBTA.
Did they not come together?
It's okay. I feel like they overworked it a little bit. There's just like a few too many things happening. It's not bad. I had fun. I don't know if I would like want to run it a lot, and I would probably play it with my friends, and we had a good time because they were amazing, exceptional role players who all know PBTA really super well. Like, okay, like me, Jason, Joey, Adam, Kadave, and Nick.
I will kick down the door if I don't get to play this game with you.
Well, it was during pandemic, and it was like outside around a campfire. Like that group was still a little bit like, what? How does this work? What? So I don't know. That was just a quick start. It could be better. I did back it. I'm excited to have it.
Yeah,
I think it's amazing that PBTA got a huge IP.
Yeah, yeah. It was one of the
but-
biggest Kickstarters when
Oh
Yeah.
my
when it
god.
released, right?
Yeah.
Well, I feel like Masks is like the peak Magpie, like mwah, chef's kiss perfection. I feel like their more recent games have started to be a little over designed, and it's a little over designed. That's my critique of it.
I'm basically scared of, as we start seeing more games in the space, of like, but our system is like PBTA, but it's got a hat on it, and I'm like, cool.
Yeah.
I did not need the hat. Like, it works just fine, and that's what's.
Somebody who's currently designing a PBTA game with a hat. No.
Listen. If I play your game, I'm like, I didn't need the hat.
Yeah, it's fine.
But no. No, you're good.
Mine's
it's
probably
good.
a little over designed too. Like I'll own that.
But that's what I'm super worried about, is that like, as these companies are giving people IP, they're like, but we don't want it to be D&D, so make it. And the designer's like, cool. But D&D works really well for this because it's a combat game or whatever. So
did either of you back the Blade Runner RPG?
I did
You haven't?
not.
It was beautiful.
It's a great looking game. I really, and this is a bit of a tangent. I'm not crazy where they're taking Year Zero. It's getting
I heard that.
Tales
there-
from the Loop, beautiful, simple,
Yeah.
rules light, very yet very versatile, right? What was the next game? Alien added to that.
Dave
and now
loves
Blade
the
Runner.
Alien.
Alien is fantastic. I love that game too. I think that was a great kind of cap to adding to Year Zero, and now they're adding new dice sizes to the Blade Runner RPG in Year Zero, and I'm like, oh. I mean, I'm sure somebody there is going to appreciate it. I'm sure it's going to be a very enjoyable game, but
But then you could have more dice.
I know. Yeah, exactly.
And a
I mean,
hat.
instead of buying the little brick of chess XD6s, you're buying the full D7, 7-piece polyhedral set, right?
Yeah.
I know, yeah. But I'm as I play more indie games, I'm becoming more and more a fan of rules light systems and just more narratively driven systems and stuff.
One of us. One of us.
See, you'll just be playing Baron Munchausen.
Yeah. I still haven't played that. That book's been sitting on my shelf for a year or two. I love the idea about it. But anyway, I digress.
It's fine.
I learned like 3 years ago that Baron Munchausen actually had rules. I was like, we don't just tell stories on a table.
There's like a little bit of a structure. To it.
Yeah, I didn't know.
I have no idea what you're talking about. I haven't played that game at all.
You haven't?
No.
Oh.
I'll tell you after the show.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's fun.
Next time I'm out here, I'll bring the rule book, the latest edition. You can read through it. It's a wonderful, beautiful thing.
Awesome.
It's lovely. Absolutely lovely.
Okay. All right. I think. Oh, I turned the page too soon. I think that's it. So thank you for joining us for season 30, episode 9 of the Happy Jacks RPG podcast. My name is Kimmy. You can find me at Golden Lasso Girl pretty much everywhere. And yeah, I do this. I do this every week. And then we are actually starting some new APs starting probably in June, which it's June now. June started. Oh gosh, June started.
June has started happening.
It's the 3rd day of June already. Or whenever it is when you're listening to this. So probably in like maybe 2-3 weeks, like the second half of June, we're gonna have maybe 1 or maybe 2 APs spinning up in the studio. In the studio. Right.
I'm Clara. I will continue to be Clara, hopefully. I'm all over the internet as clearly_golden. I am sometimes on Instagram as mermaid_clarity. As summer happens, theoretically, I'll be doing more of that. Who knows? Life is weird. The best place to keep up with that is on Twitter, clearly_golden, where you can tweet at me if you find new games that have a same system with a hat on it. Otherwise, I'm here every Monday playing our actual play of a Year Zero game. What is the game called? Vossen.
Vossen.
Vossen. I forget that the game, like our show has a name and that the system has a name. I call it Vossen.
London Calling.
London Calling is the name of the show, where you can watch me and Kadave and other wonderful people just get weird. I don't have a good answer for that otherwise. Yeah.
Hi everybody, I am Jay, and you can find me on Twitter at JAfrica, and you can find me on Instagram at TransplantAsian, and I still use this thing called Facebook. You can find me there too. That's where actually I post about my usual stuff, which isn't a lot lately, but I've got a couple of things coming down the pipe. But yeah, thanks very much for watching. Kimmy, wanna?
Yeah, absolutely. So please remember, again, we'd really appreciate it if you leave a review and rating for us wherever you listen to podcasts or wherever you just have a login. That would be very helpful to us. So we will see you very soon. Today we are going to leave you with a song. It's called Isla. What is it called? I was in this song. Sorry, it's the Skyboat song. It's our take on the Outlander theme song, which is written by my very dear friend Bear McCreary. So he's my shameless I know him. He's my friend. So
Friend of the
get
show.
him on the
Get
show.
him in an actual play.
Get him an actual play. Just have him write the theme music. It'll be
Outlander
fine.
themed actual play.
Oh, we could do that.
I know, right? Which season?
Oh,
Anyway.
no.
All of them. Anyway,
All of them.
so and it's by this band called the Mary Sues, who are my band. It's my band. So anyway, all right. Thank you all. We'll see you next week. Bye.
Sing me a song of a lass that is gone. Say, could that lass be I? Mary of soul, she sailed on a day over the sea to sky. Moon was astern, room on the port, egg on the starboard bow. Glory of song glowed in my soul. Where is that glory now? Sing me a song of a lass that is gone. Say, could that lass be I? Mary of soul, she sailed on a day over the sea to sky. Give me again all that was there. Give me the sun that shone. Give me the eyes, give me the soul, give me the love that's gone. Sing me a song of a lass that is gone. Say, could that lass be I? Mary of soul, she sailed on a day over the sea to sky. Billow and breeze, islands and seas, mountains of rain and sun. All that was good, all that was fair, all that was me is gone. Sing me a song of a lass that is gone. be I. Mary of soul, she sailed on a day over the sea to sky.